Hello, everyone. My name is Representative Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I'm here with my friends and fellow reproductive justice activists, Renee Monteil and Jodi Newell. We are here to tell you that this week is going to be a big week for reproductive justice in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. On Wednesday, the 9th, we are asking folks to sign in opposition to the following anti-choice bills that are going to be heard in front of the Judiciary Committee. HB 1181, allowing the biological father of an unborn child to petition the court for an injunction prohibiting the biological mother from having an abortion. HB 1477, prohibiting abortions after the detection of a fetal heartbeat. HB 1625, repealing the prohibition on entering or remaining on a public way or sidewalk adjacent to a reproductive health care facility. On February 10th, Thursday, we encourage folks to sign in support of the following proactive bills to protect and expand reproductive rights in the Granite State. CACR 18, providing that the state shall not infringe or unduly inconvenience the right of reproductive medical decisions, adding reproductive rights to the New Hampshire State Constitution. At 10 a.m., HB 1673, relative to women's health privacy and repealing the Fetal Health Protection Act. This bill would repeal New Hampshire's abortion ban and mandatory ultrasound requirement. And HB 1674, relative to reproductive rights, the Access to Abortion Care Act. Please join us in supporting reproductive freedom in our state. Additionally, we are going to be hosting with the Cheshire Teen Democrats this Wednesday from 4 to 5 at Central Square in Keene a visibility. So come on out, bring your signs for reproductive justice and take a stance on these issues that are critical to defending bodily autonomy here in our wonderful state. Thank you so much.
Hey friends, it is me, live from the studio here, live from Keene, and I'm just going to kick out a real quick show. Don't do much of this here and haven't done all my homework, but I had some folks in the studio the other night. We have some important stuff to get out. we're just going to wing it. We're going to get stuff out fast and fast. There's a visibility coming up in Keene in an hour, 4 o'clock. Today is Wednesday, so if you can get yourselves down there, maybe we're getting some timely stuff out. There's also some stuff going on in the State House that is happening today and tomorrow, and if you're halfway tuned in, you know there's some pretty ugly stuff going on there. I am joined in just a couple of minutes by, it's going to be members of the Cheshire County Democrats, in fact, their subcommittee on reproductive rights. You probably know some of these folks. I have New Hampshire State Rep Amanda Elizabeth Toll. Jodi Newell will be joining us, and Renee Monteil, all Keene folks who are pretty knowledgeable. They are all activists in this sort of department here. So I'm going to try to, like I said, run the show. I'll see if I can get my info up on the screen quick, because I'd be interested in talking to you folks about putting you on the show or getting some of your information out there, or even getting some of your clips of events and pictures and things. I'd like to grease the wheels a little bit and get some information moving. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you there, and we're really just going to dive into the clip. This was recorded earlier. It was recorded last night, I think, and we're just going to get to it like so. They're going to go through a lot of information. We'll take a quick little break, and then they will do a very concise summary of this information, how to do it, and what the bills are and what the numbers are. And if I have a little bit of time left over, we'll take you someplace else to hear from some other women Democrats in New Hampshire. Without further ado, let's see if I can get this thing moving, and I may come back to say ta-ta. Don't forget, today, 4 o'clock, Central Square in Keene, there's something going on, visibility event anyways. Honk and wave if you're passing by, and I hope to see you there.
Hi everyone, my name is Representative Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I represent Keene at Large in the New Hampshire State House, and I am here today with my friends and my colleagues, Renee Monteil and Jodi Newell, and both of them serve on the Keene Democrats with me, and additionally the Cheshire Democrats has a reproductive rights subcommittee, and we work on that together. We're here today because we want to talk about the attacks on bodily autonomy happening in the New Hampshire State House, and we also want to share our personal stories to give a human face to the abortion issue. All three of us are abortion storytellers, and so you'll be hearing a little bit from each of us tonight about that. As we do our work, we want to really emphasize that the feminist slogan, that the political is the personal, and what goes on in Concord has real impacts on Granite Staters' lives. So I'm going to begin by giving an overview of the bills that are going to be coming up this week, because we need people to weigh in to help defend reproductive freedom. So on Wednesday, we have 3 bills coming up that really threaten abortion access in the state of New Hampshire. So on Wednesday, February 9th, we're encouraging people to go to the either the State House to testify in opposition to, or you can sign in on the New Hampshire General Court website in opposition to the following bills. So at 9 a.m., HB 1181, which would allow the biological father of an unborn child to petition the court for an injunction prohibiting the biological mother from having an abortion. Obviously very scary. At 10, HB 1477, prohibiting abortions after the detection of a fetal heartbeat. At 1 p.m., HB 1625, repealing the prohibition on entering or remaining on a public way or sidewalk adjacent to a reproductive health care facility. Obviously, we don't want people being harassed directly in their faces as they enter a reproductive health clinic. And so we oppose all of those bills being heard on the 9th. And again, I'll repeat the numbers. It's HB 1181, HB 1477, and HB 1625. On Thursday, February 10th, we have some good bills coming to protect bodily autonomy, and we encourage folks to sign in support of these bills. or come to the State House and testify in person in support of these bills. At 9 a.m., we're going to hear CACR 18. I'm actually the prime sponsor of that bill, and that provides that the state shall not infringe or unduly inconvenience the right of reproductive medical decisions, and that would add reproductive rights to the New Hampshire state constitution. At 10 a.m. is going to be HB 1673, relative to women's health privacy and repealing the Fetal Health Protection Act. So this is a repeal of New Hampshire's abortion ban and mandatory ultrasound requirement, which of course is just in place to shame people who are exercising their reproductive choice, to force them to undergo a mandatory ultrasound. So we want that in the New Hampshire abortion ban repealed. So that's what HB 1673 does. And the final one at 1 p.m. is HB 1674, which is relative to reproductive rights. It's the Access to Abortion Care Act. And that would add protections to make sure that there's no further restrictions on abortion in the state of New Hampshire. And so again, we want people to sign in support of the Thursday bills or testify in support. CACR 18, HB 1673, and HB 1674. And so now that you know what's coming up in the New Hampshire State House, both these terrible bills to harm reproductive rights, and I just forgot to give a little background, so I want to do that for a moment before we go into our personal stories, is that this past legislative session, we had a budget that put into statute an abortion ban on abortions later in pregnancy, which is something that is deeply personal to people and should be absolutely decided between providers and their patients. The state should never be interfering with that. It can only do harm when the state interferes with people's rights to have bodily autonomy. And so that happened already. And also the Republican legislature in the budget put this mandatory ultrasound requirement into statute, making it so everyone, no matter where they were in pregnancy, would be required to undergo this invasive, medically oftentimes unnecessary procedure in order to have an abortion. And we know nowadays with medical abortion, for example, that isn't always necessary. And so that, again, should be decided between patients and their providers, not Republicans in the New Hampshire legislature. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Renee Monteil, who is Keen's, to my knowledge, only full spectrum doula, meaning that she provides care to women when they're, or birthing people, when they are expecting and they need a birth doula, or postpartum care, or when they need an abortion. So Renee is doing all three of those things. And so she has some unique perspectives on reproductive health care. And also Renee, my friend and fellow activist, has had an abortion and is also a mother of 2 children. So I'm going to turn it over to Renee to talk about her story, how this work has impacted, the combination of your work and your personal story has impacted your views on reproductive justice and how you feel about the current legislation that's happening in New Hampshire. So take it away, Renee.
Yes, well, I had an abortion when my first child was 1. Circumstances led me to make that decision as a mother, and I think that's one of the things that we need to be very cognizant of, is the majority of people that are deciding to have abortions are already mothers. They have families. And that's huge. Because what does that tell us? That tells us that people are trying to make the best decisions for their families, not just for themselves, but for their families. You know, one of the things that I've had to do a number of times is walk people into the clinic. And we're lucky here in Keene, as usually there's only 2 people standing outside. It's very small. And I have sat in the room with women holding their hands and listening to them cry and tell me their stories. And it's really heartbreaking. Some of these women are escaping dangerous abusive partners, you know, barely making it out of alive. The stories that I've heard are just horrifying. And the last thing anybody needs to do is to take away women's freedom to be able to make the best decisions for their families. These bans don't just hurt us as women. They hurt our children, they hurt our families, and ultimately they hurt our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree full-heartedly. And we know that people from all walks of life, all religions,
Yes.
all races, even all genders, like we are being called upon to, you know, we know trans folks need this care too sometimes. And so like that this can impact all people
Yes,
with
it
a
does.
uterus. It can
Absolutely.
affect their families, and as you were saying, it can impact their communities. Because
It
if
does.
we don't have control over our reproduction, we really don't have control over our lives.
No. And I feel that when it comes down to these bans, that ultimately it's violent. It's a violent act against people's bodily autonomy. And when we're trying to support our families, I know people that are struggling to feed their children in a climate right now where we are having the cost of living is rising exponentially. We are having problems, you know, feeding people and housing people, and then to deny them, you know, this thing that could help them focus on raising the family that they already have. This is a violent act against our communities, and we need to really see it that way. And you know, that's what I want to do. I want to bring attention to the fact that this is huge. This isn't just about us personally. This is about it's a family issue, not just a personal issue.
I agree with you full-heartedly, Renee. Really well said. And I think it's so important to emphasize that the same people who are attacking our reproductive rights, especially the right to have an abortion, they're also the ones who want to cut social services. Like us as reproductive rights activists, I know Jodi, Renee, myself, and we all share a belief that people both have the right not to have children and an abortion justice, but also that people have the right to have children, and when they do have children, have the resources that they need to raise them well. And so while the Republicans are cutting off abortion access, they're simultaneously making it harder and harder to take care of your family.
And it's just going to sink women, especially, you know, people that are single moms, right? Who, you know, like myself, sink us into further poverty of trying to support our families. And how is that going to be beneficial to anyone, you know, not just in our communities, statewide, countrywide?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Jodi, everyone, I'm so excited to have Jodi here, like another, not just a colleague, but truly a friend. Would you want to tell us a little bit about your story and how it impacts your feelings about what's going on in the New Hampshire legislature and your activism and feelings about reproductive justice?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to kind of pick up where Renee left off and in the conversation between y'all is it's interesting how there's shame on either end, right? So it's like shame, you know, what we're talking about, one of these bills in here, we're talking about repealing it's essentially a buffer zone around, you know, where someone would need to go for an abortion. And, you know, taking that away. But what is that really to have people, you know, stand out front of an abortion clinic? I mean, I remember when I needed to go for an abortion, I had 2 little kids. I was a single mom. I was not in a place where I could do that. And if I made the decision to have another child, I would be taking away from my existing children. I would be throwing my entire family into a bad situation. So I had to go, and I went in Boston to the whatever it is, that Planned Parenthood there. And I remember having to walk past this man. So here's this decision that I had to make. Not only that, I mean, I grew up going to the March for Life with my mom. I came from a family where this was something that was, that was really, really looked down on. It was looked on as if it was murder. And so I was brought up in that situation, and I had to go through this whole kind of process of making that decision with that baggage and all of that stuff. And so to come to the decision that, yes, no, this really is what I need to do for my family, for myself and my family. And then, to be walking in and to be essentially accosted by someone who's telling you that what I'm doing is murder and it's immoral. I've made the decision, trust me. It took me a lot to get to that point, and I really did think it through. I looked into it, found out everything, and made that decision, a very informed and a very personal decision. And then to go there, and that's essentially, like I'm saying, that's the shame that's inflicted on you. That all of these laws that's what it wants to do. That's what it aims to do, is to shame a woman who makes that decision, shame someone who makes that decision. And so, and then on the other end of it, then if you need to rely on social services, then you're shamed in that respect. We have this welfare queen mentality. So to me, it's this, it's like you can't ever satisfy. It's these things that put you in a situation where you can't win, whether you do or you don't. But whether you do or you don't has nothing to do with anyone else. It is a very personal decision to make. And so, that's why I've done this.
Thank you so much, Jodi. Such a powerful story, and we're so grateful for you sharing and for your continued advocacy in our community. Really, genuinely, just could not be more grateful to be working alongside you folks. And we are just, the three of us, I know, feel really strongly that we are going to continue to go to bat for Granite Staters by advocating that all people, regardless of race, class, gender, sexual orientation, have the right to not have children. And when they do have children, have the resources and support to do so. And we ask you to please join us in this fight. We need your voice. We need your activism. Get involved with the Keene Dems. Get involved with the Cheshire Dems. If you're outside of those areas, get involved in your local community's reproductive rights activism. And if you are here in New Hampshire, once again, we ask you on Wednesday, the 9th, to be signing in on the New Hampshire General Court website if you can't testify in person in opposition to the 3 anti-choice bills that will be coming up before the Judiciary Committee. Once again, they're HB 1181, HB 1477, and HB 1625. And on Thursday, to please join in support on the New Hampshire General Court website, signing in to support CACR 18, HB 1673, HB 1674. All 3 of those bills on Thursday are going to help protect and expand access to reproductive health care in our state. Thanks again so very much for joining us tonight. We look forward to continuing to do more of these segments, letting you know what's going on in our state. Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Jodi. Have a good night, everyone.
And there you go. Some very interesting stories, some very personal stories, and a lot of information for folks who want to help out in this. And what I'm going to do is actually just play right now. I'm going to play the repackaged, the PSA version of this, where they'll talk about the bills, the bill numbers, and how you can get involved. And you can actually go online and send your input to Concord, whether you support or oppose a bill, and send your comments and testimony as well. So that's some pretty good stuff. Let me switch that up. I've only dropped the ball once. We'll see if I can do it without dropping the ball again. Take a look at this, and then what I'm going to do after this is just fill up the rest of a half an hour to make a half an hour show. There's a little bit of value to kicking out a half an hour show every week. We want stuff to get heard and seen. One good way to do that is to put things on public access. Keene, so sorry, not for you, but there are public access stations everywhere. A steady, standalone half-hour show is something that people will play, so you can be seen in Keene, you can be seen in Concord and Manchester and Nashua, and you can get the word out. So the regular show is a goal. We're going to kick it out live with a little bit of luck. And like I said, I will see you next time and maybe do something a little bit nicer right out of the studio. So enjoy the rest of the show.
Hello, everyone. My name is Representative Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I'm here with my friends and fellow reproductive justice activists, Renee Monteil and Jodi Newell. We are here to tell you that this week is going to be a big week for reproductive justice in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. On Wednesday, the 9th, we are asking folks to sign in opposition to the following anti-choice bills that are going to be heard in front of the Judiciary Committee. HB 1181, allowing the infringe or unduly inconvenience the right of reproductive medical decisions, adding reproductive rights to the New Hampshire State Constitution. At 10 a.m., HB 1673, relative to women's health privacy and repealing the Fetal Health Protection Act. This bill would repeal New Hampshire's abortion ban and mandatory ultrasound requirement. And HB 1674, relative to reproductive rights, the Access to Abortion Care Act. Please join us in supporting reproductive freedom in our state. Additionally, we are going to be hosting with the Cheshire and Keene Democrats this Wednesday from 4 to 5 at Central Square in Keene a visibility. So come on out, bring your signs for reproductive justice, and take a stance on these issues that are critical to defending bodily autonomy here in our wonderful state. Thank you so much.
So we are here every Friday, and it depends on the week, but if you join our Facebook page, Fridays for Future Jaffrey, New Hampshire, you can see our posts. We post photos, we post when we're going to meet here every week. So come join us every Friday to strike for the climate and make this world a better place for everyone.
Just jotting down a few other things I didn't want to forget to say. But what's going on the Executive Council? Well, when these horrible things happen in the legislature, right? They end up in the Executive Council in the form of contracts, right? So, you know, as we're going through contracts now, and I'm seeing, hey, we just reduced the funding for homelessness by 10 to 20% across the board. What's going on here? Well, we needed to take a cut here. We were told by the governor's office we needed to cut the budget, and so we've cut the funding for homelessness. When you take a look at where you see child care services, where you see all of the services that are important to us, they are being cut in this budget. The things that are really, really important to us are being cut. Family planning, the budget for family planning, which we're going to talk about separately, cut in this budget. There is so much human suffering and pain in this budget, and this is all on the governor, and it is all because the governor wants to give a tax break to corporations who fund him, who support him. This is political, and he's bargaining away what is important to us. And he bargained away this time our fundamental rights. Let's get down to what this election, where do we want the focus to be? We got to start here. We control our bodies. He has, repeat after me, inserted himself into this. And we won't have it. We simply are not going to have him. Let's talk about it what it really is. A transvaginal ultrasound is forcing a probe up into the vagina of maybe a young girl who's been impregnated by her father. maybe a rape victim. I mean, this is real life. Maybe it's just done to a woman to humiliate and shame her. That is the only purpose of a medically unnecessary procedure being forced on us. He calls himself pro-choice. Let's remember that. What else? What else was in that budget? Family planning audits. We're going to have to do financial audits of all the family planning agencies in order to be able to contract with them. The Commissioner of Health and Human Services testified at the last 2 Executive Council meetings in response to my direct questions that yes, if we have to do this before we can do the contracts, it's going to result in the delay of treatment to women. It could result in the interruption of services. What kind of services, I ask? Contraceptive services? Yes, she says. Abortion services? Yes. Cancer screenings? Yes. You're telling me that people's cancers may be diagnosed later than they would have been because these people want to do an audit just for the purpose of doing it, just to muck up the works? Yes. Yes. That's what we're facing now. That is what we're facing. A 24-week abortion. That is such a red herring. Do you know when a 24-week abortion happens? It happens when you have a non-viable fetus or a direct threat to the life of the mother. Exactly. And what this, make no mistake about this, what this really translates into is doctors who will not want to practice in our state.
Yes, right. 1,000%. 1,000%. Yep.
That is those high-risk pregnancies up at Dartmouth where you have those ultra specialists that will take those really difficult pregnant. They don't want to come here if we are criminalizing their behavior. They will be faced with the decision of whether they can do this abortion when they think it's medically necessary, and have they taken the chance that they're going to be criminalized themselves? That is what we're talking about. We already have maternity deserts all across this state, and now this is what we are talking about.
Hello everyone, my name is Representative Amanda Elizabeth Toll, and I'm here with my friends and fellow reproductive justice activists, Renee Monteil and Jodi Newell. We are here to tell you that this week is going to be a big week for reproductive justice in the New Hampshire House of Representatives. On Wednesday, the 9th, we are asking folks to sign in opposition to the following anti-choice bills that are going to be heard in front of the Judiciary Committee. HB 1181, allowing the biological father of an unborn child to petition the court for an injunction prohibiting the biological mother from having an abortion. HB 1477, prohibiting abortions after the detection of a fetal heartbeat. HB 1625, repealing the prohibition on entering or remaining on a public way or sidewalk adjacent to a reproductive health care facility. On February 10th, Thursday, we encourage folks to sign in support of the following proactive bills to protect and expand reproductive rights in the Granite State. CACR 18, providing that the state shall not infringe or unduly inconvenience the right of reproductive medical decisions, adding reproductive rights to the New Hampshire State Constitution. At 10 a.m., HB 1673, relative to women's health privacy and repealing the Fetal Health Protection Act. This bill would repeal New Hampshire's abortion ban and mandatory ultrasound requirement. And HB 1674, relative to reproductive rights, the Access to Abortion Care Act. Please join us in supporting reproductive freedom in our state. Additionally, we are going to be hosting with the Cheshire and Keene Democrats this Wednesday from 4 to 5 at Central Square in Keene a visibility. So come on out, bring your signs for reproductive justice, and take a stance on these issues that are critical to defending bodily autonomy here in our wonderful state. Thank you so much.